It was a sunny Tuesday afternoon, and Karen was in a hurry. After an exhausting shopping trip, she pulled into the narrow street near her house, determined to get her groceries inside before tackling the next errand on her list. But as she approached her driveway, she spotted an unwelcome sight: a large ambulance blocking her way. Unbelievable. Karen huffed, slamming her car door shut. She marched towards the ambulance, her face scrunched in an angry scowl. "What do you think you're doing? Move this thing immediately." The paramedics, who were tending to a patient on a stretcher, looked up in surprise. "Ma'am, we're in the middle of an emergency. We need to park here to get the patient to the hospital." Karen planted her hands firmly on her hips. "Well, I have groceries in my car that need to be put away. You need to find somewhere else to park." One of the paramedics tried to reason with her. "This is the closest and safest place for us to load the patient. We'll be out of your way as soon as possible." But Karen was having none of it. "I don't care about your emergency," she spat, using exaggerated air quotes. "I need to get these groceries inside, and you're blocking my driveway. Move this ambulance now, or I'll call the police." The paramedics exchanged a bewildered glance, unsure of how to handle the situation. They couldn't afford to waste precious time arguing with this unreasonable woman, but they also couldn't abandon their patient in a dangerous location. Just then, the front door of the house nearest to the ambulance swung open, and a frantic-looking man rushed out. "What's going on? Is that my wife?" he cried, hurrying towards the stretcher. Karen's eyes widened as she recognized her neighbor, a quiet man named Tom, whom she rarely spoke to. "Your wife?" she repeated, her voice suddenly small. "Yes, my wife," Tom said, his voice laced with panic. "She collapsed earlier, and the paramedics need to get her to the hospital immediately. Please, move your car so they can leave." Karen stood there, stunned, as the gravity of the situation sank in. Her neighbor's wife, someone she had known for years, was in need of urgent medical attention, and she had tried to stop the ambulance from helping her. Shame and guilt washed over her, and she felt her face burn with embarrassment. Without a word, Karen hurried back to her car, throwing the groceries into the back seat. She quickly pulled forward, clearing the way for the ambulance to depart. As she watched the vehicle speed off, the weight of her actions settled heavily on her conscience. What had she done? In her selfish pursuit of convenience, she had nearly prevented a life-saving intervention for her own neighbor. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut, and she knew she would have to face the consequences of her behavior. As Karen walked back into her house, alone with her thoughts, she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger reckoning. The following day, Karen's encounter with the ambulance crew had become the talk of the neighborhood. Word had spread quickly, and she found herself the subject of intense scrutiny and criticism. As Karen stepped outside to retrieve her morning newspaper, she noticed several of her neighbors casting disapproving glances in her direction. She quickened her pace, hoping to avoid any confrontation, but it was too late. "Hey, Karen," called out her next-door neighbor, Mrs. Wilkins, a stern-faced woman in her 60s. "I heard about what you did yesterday. Blocking an ambulance from helping your own neighbor? That's just despicable." Karen felt her cheeks flush with embarrassment. I didn't know it was my neighbor," she stammered, desperately trying to explain herself. "Oh, so that makes it better, does it?" Mrs. Wilkins scoffed. "You still prioritized your precious groceries over someone's life. Shame on you." Other neighbors had started to gather, nodding in agreement with Mrs. Wilkins' harsh words. Karen shrunk under their collective glares, wishing the ground would swallow her up. "I didn't mean to," she tried to say, but her voice trailed off, unable to find a justification for her actions. "Didn't mean to what, Karen?" piped up Mr. Johnson, an elderly retiree who lived a few doors down. "Didn't mean to be a selfish, entitled bully, because that's exactly what you were." The crowd murmured in agreement, and Karen felt her heart sink. She had never considered herself a bad person, but now, in the face of her neighbor's righteous anger, she was forced to confront the ugly truth. Her behavior had been nothing short of despicable. As the group dispersed, leaving Karen alone with her shame, she retreated back into her house, shutting the door behind her. Sinking onto the couch, she buried her face in her hands, tears of regret streaming down her cheeks. "What have I done?" she whispered to the empty room, the weight of her actions crushing her. In that moment, Karen realized that her thoughtless, entitled behavior had not only endangered her neighbor's life, but had also shattered the fragile social fabric of her community. She had become the very thing she had always resented, the inconsiderate, self-absorbed neighbor that everyone tried to avoid. As the day wore on, Karen found herself unable to focus on anything but the guilt and shame that consumed her. She knew she had to make amends, but the thought of facing her neighbors again filled her with dread. Still, she couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that she owed them, and especially Tom and his wife, a sincere apology. Mustering her courage, Karen knew she had to take the first step towards redemption. With a heavy heart, she made her way to Tom's house, determined to make things right, even if it meant risking further humiliation. Karen's hands trembled as she approached Tom's front door, her heart pounding in her chest. The weight of her actions from the previous day had been a constant, suffocating presence, and she knew she needed to make amends. Steeling her nerves, she raised a shaky hand and knocked firmly on the door. After a few moments, it opened, revealing Tom's somber expression. "Karen," he said, his voice flat and devoid of any warmth. "What can I do for you?" Karen swallowed hard, her throat suddenly dry. "Tom, I'm so sorry," she began, her words barely above a whisper. "I didn't know it was your wife in the ambulance. If I had known, I never would have." Her voice trailed off, and she looked down at her feet, unable to meet Tom's gaze. Tom's expression softened ever so slightly, and he let out a heavy sigh. "I know you didn't know, Karen, but that doesn't make what you did any less wrong." Karen nodded, feeling the sting of shame wash over her. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I was being selfish and inconsiderate, and I put my own needs before someone else's life. I can't even begin to imagine how horrible that must have been for you and your wife." Tom remained silent for a moment, as if contemplating his response. "My wife is going to be okay," he finally said. "The paramedics were able to get her to the hospital in time. But that's not the point, is it?" Karen shook her head, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "No, it's not. I was wrong, and I know that now. I hope you can forgive me, Tom. I want to make this right somehow." Tom studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Karen held her breath, bracing herself for the inevitable rejection. "Karen, I appreciate you coming here to apologize," Tom said, his voice measured. "It takes a lot of courage to own up to your mistakes, and I respect that. But this isn't just about me and my wife. You've upset a lot of people in this neighborhood, and they deserve an apology too." Karen nodded, her heart sinking. "I know. I don't even know how to begin making amends with everyone." Tom's expression softened, and he took a step back, gesturing for Karen to enter. "Why don't you come in, and we can talk about it? I think there might be a way for you to start making things right." Karen hesitated for a moment, then stepped inside, her mind racing with a mixture of trepidation and a glimmer of hope. As the door closed behind her, she knew that this was the first step on a long and difficult journey towards redemption. As Karen stepped into Tom's home, she felt a wave of unease wash over her. The last time she had been here, it was under the most unfortunate of circumstances. Her own selfish actions had nearly jeopardized the life of his wife. Now, she was here seeking forgiveness, hoping to make amends for her thoughtless behavior. Tom gestured for Karen to take a seat on the worn, but well-loved, sofa. "Would you like some tea?" he asked, his voice surprisingly calm and measured. "Oh, Yes, please, Karen replied, grateful for the offer. She needed something to do with her hands, something to distract her from the heavy weight of guilt and shame that had settled upon her. As Tom busied himself in the kitchen, Karen took the opportunity to glance around the modest living room. Family photos adorned the walls, showcasing a couple and their 2 young children, all of them smiling brightly. Karen felt a pang of remorse, knowing that her actions had put that family at risk. When Tom returned with 2 steaming mugs of tea, Karen accepted hers gratefully, wrapping her hands around the warm ceramic. "Thank you," she said quietly, her eyes downcast. Tom took a seat in the armchair across from her, his own mug cradled in his hands. "Karen, I'm not going to lie. What you did yesterday was incredibly selfish and inconsiderate. Not only did you endanger my wife's life, but you also upset a lot of people in this neighborhood." Karen nodded, her shoulders slumping in shame. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I was in a hurry, and I didn't think about the consequences of my actions. But that's no excuse. I was wrong, and I know that now." Tom studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. "Well, I appreciate you coming here to apologize. It can't have been easy, given the way the neighbors have been talking about you." Karen felt her face flush with embarrassment. "Yes, I've heard the rumors. They're all right to be angry with me. I deserve it." "Maybe," Tom conceded, "but I think there might be a way for you to make amends, not just with me and my wife, but with the whole neighborhood." Karen's head snapped up, her eyes widening with hope. "Really? How?" Tom set his mug down on the coffee table and leaned forward, his expression serious. "Well, as you know, my wife is still recovering from her medical emergency. She's going to need some extra help around the house for the next few weeks, and I'm going to be stretched thin trying to take care of her and the kids." Karen nodded, her heart sinking. "I understand. I can't imagine how difficult that must be for you." "It is," Tom admitted, "but I think you might be able to help." Karen's brow furrowed in confusion. "Help? How?" "Well, I was thinking that maybe you could come over a few times a week, lend a hand with the chores, help out with the kids, that sort of thing. It would be a way for you to make amends, to show the neighborhood that you're truly sorry and that you're willing to put in the work to make things right." Karen felt a surge of hope, mingled with a healthy dose of trepidation. You really let me do that? After what I did?" Tom nodded, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. "I believe in second chances, Karen. And I think this could be a good opportunity for you to start making amends, not just with me and my family, but with the whole community." Karen felt a lump forming in her throat, and she blinked back tears of relief and gratitude. "Tom, I don't know what to say. Thank you so much. I promise I'll do whatever I can to help, and I'll make sure the neighbors see that I'm serious about making things right." Tom reached across the coffee table and placed a reassuring hand on Karen's arm. "I know you will, Karen, and I appreciate you being willing to put in the work. It's not going to be easy, but I believe you can do it." As Karen left Tom's house, a newfound sense of purpose and determination filled her. This was her chance to redeem herself, to show her neighbors that she was more than just the entitled, selfish woman they had come to despise. She was going to prove to them, and to herself, that she could be a better person. Over the next few weeks, Karen found herself spending more and more time at Tom's house, helping out with chores, running errands, and caring for his children. It was a far cry from her usual routine, which had revolved around her own needs and desires. At first, it was an uncomfortable adjustment. Karen was used to being in control, to having things her way. But as she immersed herself in the daily tasks of caregiving, she began to see the world through a different lens. She witnessed the exhaustion and worry etched on Tom's face as he juggled his work obligations with his wife's recovery. She saw the joy and resilience of the children who adapted to their mother's absence with a resilience that humbled Karen. And she couldn't help but be touched by the outpouring of support from their neighbors, who brought meals, offered childcare, and checked in on the family regularly. It was a stark contrast to the way Karen had behaved, and it made her cringe with shame every time she remembered the incident with the ambulance. But true to her word, Karen was determined to make amends. She showed up at Tom's doorstep every morning, ready to lend a hand. She ran errands, did laundry, and helped the children with their homework. And slowly, over time, she began to see a shift in the way her neighbors looked at her. At first, there were still the occasional disapproving glances and hushed whispers. But Karen didn't let that deter her. She greeted everyone with a smile and a genuine offer to help, no matter how they responded. And gradually, the walls of suspicion and resentment began to crumble. The neighbors, who had once viewed Karen as an entitled and self-absorbed woman, started to see a different side of her, a person who was willing to put in the hard work to make things right. One afternoon, as Karen was watering the flowers in Tom's front yard, Mrs. Wilkins approached her, a tentative smile on her face. "Karen," she said, her voice uncharacteristically soft. I wanted to say that I've noticed the work you've been doing around here. It's admirable." Karen looked up, her eyes widening in surprise. "Oh, Mrs. Wilkins, I'm just trying to do the right thing, that's all." The older woman nodded, her expression softening. "Well, you're certainly making a difference. And I wanted to apologize for the way I spoke to you the other day. I was harsh, and I shouldn't have been." Karen felt a lump forming in her throat as she listened to Mrs. Wilkins' words. "No, please, don't apologize. I deserved it. I was completely in the wrong, and I'm just grateful for the chance to make amends." Mrs. Wilkins reached out and placed a hand on Karen's arm, a gesture that spoke volumes. "Well, you're doing a fine job of it, my dear. Keep it up, and I'm sure the rest of the neighborhood will come around too." With that, Mrs. Wilkins turned and headed back to her own home, leaving Karen with a renewed sense of hope and determination. She had taken the first step towards rebuilding the bridges she had so carelessly burned, and she knew that the journey ahead would be a long and difficult one. But as she watched the children playing in the yard, their laughter filling the air, Karen knew that it would be worth it. She was determined to prove to her neighbors and to herself that she was capable of change, that she could be a better person, one who put the needs of others before her own. As the weeks turned into months, Karen's dedication to helping the Wilsons and rebuilding her relationships with the neighbors began to pay off. The initial suspicion and resentment slowly gave way to a newfound respect and acceptance. One afternoon, as Karen was folding laundry in the Wilson household, Tom's wife, Sarah, entered the room. Karen instinctively tensed, unsure of how Sarah would receive her. "Karen," Sarah said, her voice warm and sincere, "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done for us these past few months." Karen looked up, her eyes wide with surprise. "Oh, Sarah, please, you don't have to thank me. I'm the one who should be apologizing." Sarah raised a hand, silencing Karen's protests. "No, Karen, you've already apologized, and I've forgiven you. What you did was wrong, but the way you've been making amends, the way you've been helping our family, it's been truly remarkable." Karen felt a lump form in her throat as Sarah's words sank in. I wanted to do the right thing. After what happened, I knew I had to make things right somehow." Sarah nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. "And you have. You've been a godsend, Karen, not just to us, but to the entire neighborhood. The way you've thrown yourself into this, the way you've shown humility and genuine care, it's been an inspiration to all of us." Karen blinked back tears, overwhelmed by Sarah's genuine praise. "I don't know what to say. I feel like I have so much to make up for, and I'm just trying to be a better person." "And you are," Sarah assured her. "You're proving that every single day. It's not easy, I know, but the way you've handled this, the way you've put in the hard work, it's a testament to your character." Karen took a deep, shuddering breath, the weight of Sarah's words settling upon her. For so long, she had been defined by her entitled, selfish behavior, but now, slowly but surely, she was rewriting that narrative. "Thank you, Sarah," Karen whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Truly, thank you. I don't know if I can ever make up for what I did, but I'm going to keep trying, every single day." Sarah reached out and squeezed Karen's hand, her eyes shining with understanding. "That's all anyone can ask, Karen. And you know, I think you're well on your way to becoming the kind of neighbor we all hope to have." As Sarah left the room, Karen sat there, her heart swelling with a mixture of humility, gratitude, and a newfound sense of purpose. She had been given a second chance, and she was determined not to squander it. From that day forward, Karen's interactions with her neighbors grew even more meaningful. She no longer approached them with a sense of entitlement or indifference, but with genuine empathy and a desire to be a positive force in their lives. And as the months passed, Karen began to see the true impact of her actions. The once strained relationships within the community were slowly mending, and Karen found herself at the center of it all, a humble and willing participant in the process of healing and reconciliation. As the seasons changed and time passed, Karen's dedication to the Wilson family and the broader community only grew stronger. She found a newfound sense of purpose in her daily routines, taking immense satisfaction in the small acts of kindness and service that had once been foreign to her. One morning, as Karen was watering the flowers in the Wilsons' front yard, she noticed Mrs. Wilkins struggling to carry several heavy grocery bags from her car. Without hesitation, Karen hurried over to lend a hand. "Mrs. Wilkins, let me help you with that," Karen said, her voice warm and sincere. The older woman's eyes widened in surprise, but she quickly recovered, offering Karen a grateful smile. "Why, thank you, dear. That's very kind of you." As they walked together towards Mrs. Wilkins' front door, Karen couldn't help but reflect on how much had changed in the past few months. The frosty, disapproving glances had been replaced with genuine warmth and acceptance. "You know, Karen," Mrs. Wilkins said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I've been meaning to say that I'm proud of you. The way you've been stepping up to help the Wilsons and the whole neighborhood, it's been truly inspiring." Karen felt a surge of emotion, her cheeks flushing with a mix of pride and humility. "Thank you, Mrs. Wilkins. I wanted to do the right thing, to make up for my past mistakes." Mrs. Wilkins nodded, her expression softening. "Well, you're certainly doing that, and then some. I'll admit, I was one of the harshest critics when all that business with the ambulance happened. But seeing the way you've turned things around, the way you've become such an integral part of this community, it's made me realize just how wrong I was." Karen felt a lump form in her throat as she listened to Mrs. Wilkins' words. "You don't have to apologize, Mrs. Wilkins. I deserved every bit of that criticism. I was selfish and inconsiderate, and I'm just grateful that I've been given the chance to make amends. And you've done that, and then some," Mrs. Wilkins said, reaching out to give Karen's arm a gentle squeeze. "You know, the other day, I was talking to the Johnsons, and we all agreed that we're lucky to have you as a part of this community." Tears of joy and gratitude welled up in Karen's eyes, and she blinked rapidly to keep them from spilling over. That means more to me than you know. I want to be the kind of neighbor that everyone can count on." Mrs. Wilkins smiled, her own eyes shining with a newfound respect. "Well, my dear, you've certainly proven that you are. And I, for one, am grateful to have you in our little corner of the world." As they parted ways, Karen felt a profound sense of belonging and purpose that she had never experienced before. The once fractured community had come together, and she had played a pivotal role in that transformation. With a renewed sense of determination, Karen knew that her journey of redemption was far from over. But she also knew that she had the support and acceptance of her neighbors, a thought that filled her heart with a deep and abiding joy. As the seasons continued to change and the months passed, Karen's newfound commitment to her community only grew stronger. She had become a fixture in the lives of the Wilsons and their neighbors, her once selfish behavior a distant memory. One crisp autumn afternoon, Karen was busy raking leaves in the Wilsons' front yard when she heard the familiar sound of an approaching siren. Her heart skipped a beat as she turned to see an ambulance speeding down the street, its emergency lights flashing. Instinctively, Karen felt a surge of panic, her mind flashing back to the incident that had nearly cost her neighbor's life. But this time, instead of rushing to block the ambulance, she found herself frozen in place, watching with bated breath as the vehicle pulled up in front of the Wilsons' home. To her relief and surprise, the paramedics swiftly but gently loaded a young child onto the stretcher and into the ambulance. Karen recognized the child as the Wilsons' youngest, a rambunctious 5-year-old named Timmy, who had recently fallen ill with a severe case of the flu. Without hesitation, Karen hurried to the Wilsons' front door and knocked urgently. Sarah, her face etched with worry, opened the door, her eyes widening when she saw Karen standing there. "Karen, thank goodness you're here," Sarah cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Timmy's taken a turn for the worse, and the paramedics just took him to the hospital." Karen reached out and squeezed Sarah's hand, her own eyes reflecting the same concern. "I saw the ambulance. Is there anything I can do to help?" Sarah shook her head, her expression a mix of gratitude and despair. I don't know. Tom's already on his way to the hospital, but with the other kids." "Say no more," Karen interrupted, her voice soft, but resolute. "I'll stay here with the other children and make sure they're taken care of. You go be with Timmy, and don't worry about a thing." Sarah's shoulders sagged with relief, and she pulled Karen into a tight embrace. "Thank you, Karen. I don't know what we'd do without you." As Sarah rushed to the hospital, Karen turned her attention to the 2 older Wilsons' children, who were visibly shaken by their younger brother's sudden medical emergency. With a gentle, reassuring presence, Karen ushered them inside, offering comfort and distractions to ease their worry. In the hours that followed, Karen's unwavering support and care for the Wilsons family did not go unnoticed by the rest of the neighborhood. Word quickly spread of her selfless actions, and soon, a steady stream of neighbors arrived at the Wilsons' doorstep, offering meals, childcare, and whatever else the family might need. It was a stark contrast to the Karen of old, the one who had so callously prioritized her own petty concerns over the well-being of her neighbor. But this Karen, the one who had dedicated herself to making amends and becoming a true pillar of the community, was a testament to the power of redemption and the transformative nature of empathy. As the night wore on and news filtered in about Timmy's improving condition, Karen couldn't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude and fulfillment. The path she had chosen, the one of humility and service, had not been an easy one, but it had ultimately led her to a place of profound connection and purpose. And in that moment, as she sat surrounded by a community that had once shunned her, Karen knew that the true reward of her journey was not simply the forgiveness she had earned, but the profound sense of belonging and the deep, abiding friendships she had forged along the way.